what does success look like to me? What am I driving towards? And those things are very personal. It's amazing what you can accomplish when there's trust in the room. And when you remove that trust, it's remarkable how inefficient you can become.
And when you've got guys around you who are buying into your vision and pushing towards the same thing, it's energizing. All right. Well, welcome to the Forge Contractor Alliance podcast. I'm here with my good friend Kenton on a beautiful sunny morning here in northern BC. So, yeah.
Yeah, what a beautiful drive in today, man.
Yeah, it was. It really was.
So I was thinking this morning, I remember when my dream was to have a dump trailer.
That was your dream.
It was a dream. I remember going to the landfill for years at the very end of a hard day. And my brother and I, our ritual was for the first 5 or 6 years that I was running a roofing company from 19 till 25, like in that age category, we would give her all day long, and the dump closed at 7:00. Now it closes at 5. And so it would be impossible to do what we did. But at that time, we would like aim to get to the landfill at 6:30. Our truck would be packed with old shingles, like absolutely to the gills. We'd have some sort of a tarp like strapped over it. And we would get there, and the guys knew, like, if it was just some like random people that were coming into the dump at that time with a load that size, they would turn them away. But they knew that my brother and I would get it done and get out, and they could still go home for their, quitting time. But it was like an absolute, like a gym workout times 3. Like, we would just be pulling shingles out of that truck like as hard as we could, and we would come back to the scales to weigh out just absolutely just depleted, and then get home and hopefully have a huge pot of chili that was left over from the night before and eat some cold chili and go to bed. But I just remember thinking, man, it would change my life to have more efficiency, to be able to get more done in the same amount of time and just have like a hydraulic lift do what I'm doing physically.
Yeah. Did they even exist then?
They did, but they were totally out of range from a dollar perspective. Like, just whenever I would do the cost calculation and I would look at, like, this is how much a dump trailer would cost, this is how much an hour of my time and my brother's time, or half an hour really, is worth, the equation just didn't work. And so we would just keep throwing. And so, but when I was working in Edmonton was the first time that I was using the boss's dump truck. He had a 5-ton dump truck. And man, like every time that I just pressed the button and it just lifted, I felt like a king.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about life in general and how that in almost every single way, we are more efficient now than we've ever been.
Yeah.
Like, we have machines that do things that we used to sweat to do. And I was thinking about, like, in certain aspects, like if you consider what one man could harvest in a day 300 years ago versus one man today, I think, and I could be wrong on this, but I think the efficiency is in the dozens and maybe up to 100 times. Like, just how much can be accomplished by one person versus, and 100 times might be an exaggeration, but I don't think it's that far off.
Depending. There's some... Like with technology, if you're in a harvester and a big machine on a farm, that's probably 1,000 times what you would be doing by hand.
Yeah, like I even simplify it to just like how you make your dinner. Like it wasn't that long ago where you had to start a fire and then you had to get the fire to the right heat. And then you had to, do whatever you had to do while the fire was at the right heat.
Yeah.
And so there's just a whole layer of thought that goes into life that we don't think about these days. And I remember when microwaves first became a thing, it was like the angels were singing. It's like all of a sudden you could just throw in something. And interestingly, my wife and I haven't had a microwave for the last 25 years. Like, we just don't have one. And it was weird because it was funny when my wife made the decision not to have a microwave for health reasons. She just didn't believe in it. She's just like, no, we're not going to have one. It was like strange when people were like, what? You don't have a microwave? Like, this saved the world. Why don't you have a microwave? But we've lived without it. But it's just amazing how many conveniences we have. It's amazing what we can all get done in a short amount of time. And I often think about this when I'm traveling, because I just think like it wasn't, again, that long ago where a horse was fast. And, you know, you'd get on the back of a horse and now you were really traveling.
Yeah.
And, but you think about it, like you came in how many kilometers this morning?
70.
Like 70 kilometers from your lake.
Yeah, 60, 70.
You live on. And so, and it took you, well, I don't want to know exactly, but not long.
45 minutes.
Yeah. And nice whereas if you were going to do that, again, 300 years ago, you would be like packing for a week.
Yeah.
And you'd be wishing your family goodbye. You know, you'd be giving them all a hug and a kiss and say like, I hopefully will be back at such and such a time. If I'm not, then, you know, wait for me. Right. And so it is fascinating to me how panicked we get about production when compared to history, our production is just phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
And it just makes me wonder. And so I think what we're discussing today is we're talking about how hard we work. We're in the middle of our season right now and we're feeling it. Like we are working hard. Yeah. And we're pushing a lot of hours. We're producing a ton. And we can't produce enough right now. Like there's no day when I come home and I'm like, wow, like I overdid it. Like I got more done than I could even hope for. Like it never happens. There's days when I'm happy with myself, rarely, but every once in a while. I've had a couple of those this season. But for the most part, I'm like, man, I would have loved to get like just another step forward. And it makes me wonder, are we justified with what we expect to produce? Is it a good thing that we target the targets that we have? Are we over targeting? Are we under delivering? Are we spoiled? And I don't think there's a clear answer to any of these questions, but I think it's a worthwhile conversation because I think like we're talking largely about the trades and to tradespeople, but also to small business people. And I think this conversation would resonate with, just motivated people overall.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there is a section of people that the less they do, the better in a day. And so this is not a conversation that will interest you if that's you. but if you tend to set your targets in such a way that you feel at the end of the day like, wow, I wish I had done more, then this is a conversation for you. Because I think most days when I go home, I'm like, that was all right.
Yeah.
Like I did okay, but man, I should be doing more. And even as I'm sitting and catching my breath in the evening, there's like 5 things on my head that I should be doing.
Yeah. I think it goes both ways. Yes, we're absolutely spoiled because even if you live in poverty and you are on welfare and you have housing of any kind, your heat automatically warms your house for you.
Yes.
Things are automated.
Yes.
We have luxuries even in a lower level of poverty that royalty didn't have even a couple hundred years ago. They would have servants to stoke their fires and warm their beds.
Yeah.
But we take for granted all the time the comfort we have, but that comfort comes at a cost. And the reason that comfort is so easily accessible is because people's hard work and technologies and efficiencies are in place so that these things are achievable for the masses.
Yeah.
I would like, that's just what a thought that came to my mind about it is the reason that everyone gets to enjoy all these things is because people have worked hard. They've come through solutions and been innovative in many ways.
Yes.
But
innovations on top of innovations. Like there's many generations of innovations that have led to the comforts and the expectations of life that we have right now.
A good example of this that I always use because I have some guys on my crew are hardcore Apple people, and then I got the Samsung crowd, and they're always just like fighting at each other about, you know, it's almost like a cult. It's really weird, but I'm always and I'm like, hey, you know what? I love them both because if they weren't constantly outdoing each other and racing for the top, who gets to win from this? We as a consumer
Totally.
just constantly get a better product. We get a more efficient device. We get a better tool constantly. And I guess that's a product of capitalism and
I
how
agree with you,
society
except
works.
for the fact that Samsung is just better. But
I agree.
but I get what you're saying.
It's better for me. For my grandma, an Apple is pretty easy to use. So
Excellent. Yeah. For your grandma, that's that's funny. For all you grandmas out there, use the Apple. No, I agree. I think that we are like our choices, the choices between what's best and what's next best in our mind is often between choices that even me as a young kid couldn't have dreamt of. Like a dump trailer was a dream. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
Like it was like, man, I just felt like once I had a dump trailer, like my life, and in fairness, it has changed significantly.
Yeah.
Like I have been able to get home half an hour earlier. More importantly, I've been able to get home with way more energy than I did before a dump trailer. Like, there's no doubt.
So when you first got the dump trailer, it probably felt amazing.
It did.
But how long did it take until it was just normal?
I mean,
So you don't feel like you're living the dream anymore. It's just a part of the process.
It didn't take long from a functional standpoint, but I'm an overthinker. I've got a lot going on in my brain, and I still love my dump trailer.
Yeah.
Like there is still something about it when I hit that button and it goes up. There's still something, because I'm that guy, there's still something about it that just feels like, wow, I love this. And every once in a while when my dump trailer the battery will die because of a long cold winter and I won't have replaced it on time, and I have to actually manually throw out a load, which happens like once every couple years, I'm like, wow, I am so thankful for this. Like, it doesn't take much. Let's put it this way. I threw by hand long enough that it doesn't take much to like remind me of how valuable that is.
Yeah. That's probably the difference between me and you. Because when I first started working for you, we just still didn't have a dump trailer at that point.
Yeah,
and
that's
I
right.
hand-bombed for maybe a season.
Yeah.
But we had one pretty darn quick.
We did.
And it was like, I remember the first time you got to use that technology to make my day more efficient, and it's super satisfying. But for me, it's like when I get a dump trailer, it's just one more step, and then it's on to the next thing.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that's partly just because I didn't have to hand bomb for so long, but I've also been coached by others saying, hey, you need to celebrate your wins more.
Yeah.
And because it's one of my problems is I achieve something, like I'll get a piece of technology or a piece of infrastructure, and I'm like, yes, what's the next thing?
Right, yeah,
and I don't even celebrate
one quick breath and you're on. Yeah.
It's like I achieved my dream. What's my next dream?
Yeah.
It's not the healthiest way to do business.
And it's interesting to me. Like, I think like there's multiple different levels about what it looks like to embrace technology, what it looks like to embrace efficiencies, and what expectations different tradespeople put on themselves. Like one thing that I've noticed is that there's guys who are still to this day addicted to smoking, and their rhythm is extremely different about the rhythm of their day. Like, they will smoke. Some guys will go out, and now customers are not happy if you're smoking in their house typically. And so, which is understandable in my mind. And so they will be out having a smoke break every hour, which takes I don't know, like 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how hard you're drawing on it, I guess. And so that's a different rhythm, right? Like, it's a very different rhythm, because for me, if I'm taking 10 minutes to just stand and do nothing every hour, like that doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Like, that drives me crazy. However, there are people out there, like, that's their rhythm. And I don't think it's altogether unhealthy. I mean, the smoking itself is probably not healthy, but what they say though is that like that taking a bit of time out more regularly, there is a health component to that.
Yep. Helps you shift your focus.
Yeah.
Just get a quick break.
And they do say if you take a few minutes and deep breathe, which essentially is the best part of smoking, that and the social aspect, those two things are a benefit to smoking. And I'm not a proponent of smoking, don't get me wrong, but there are a couple side benefits, and I think that the deep breathing is a benefit. Like, sometimes just getting air into the bottom of your lungs. Now, when it's filled with smoke, that's probably a net negative, but we don't typically just take time to breathe.
Yeah.
We don't. It's just something we do to facilitate life. And I think so there are some things about that kind of rhythm that are worth thinking about. But I think most of us, we just put the hammer down. Like we just get going in our day. We have our list of things to do. We know at the beginning, I don't know how you work on this, but for me, I'm like, I've got to get A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And what my day looks like is like there is a gradient to how these letters line up, in that I have to get A and B done. Like in order for my day to have any meaning at all, A and B have got to be done.
Yeah.
C, I will get done if it kills me. And then from D and on, it's like, I hope so. And if my day goes really well, and I kind of grade myself at the end of the day, like if I have gotten, 6 tasks done rather than the 3 that I absolutely must get done, I feel like, okay, well, this is great. But then there's always some stuff hanging over my head at night. And I'm thinking, I should have done this.
Yeah. Do you find you do that every day?
Pretty much every day.
So is that based around the workday or personal life included in that?
Personal life is an additional thing. This would be in my work side, yeah.
I think all of us, like I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but I feel like at the end of the day when I'm winding down, getting ready to go to bed, it's just like I always review my day. It's like, was today a good day?
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily have the ultra prioritized list. To me, it's just like, what were the wins for today?
Right.
And if there's a few things that aren't on there, like if I didn't have good social connection, if I didn't have productive meetings with my company, if there weren't certain wins in my day just feels like a loss. It just feels like a failure. So, but those wins can look like a million different things. And I don't know. I've heard that there's a component to your next day of where you want to plan your next day, and more like what you said, make sure you have your 3 wins at least that you're going to accomplish. And so long as you accomplish those few things, it was a good day. But I don't know, with business, I go through seasons where it feels like no matter how many wins I had in a day, if certain things just aren't successful, and if I'm dealing, like if I have one bad customer who's just coming at us in a really bad way, it feels like no matter how many wins I had in that day, those issues or those problems just overloom and just cause stress. Yeah. That is really hard to overcome. And I don't think most people can handle that. Affects your
efficiency as well.
I don't know, actually. It affects my mindset. I mean, for me, there's a lot of days where I wake up and there's, especially if a few of those things stack on top of each other, it's just like, why do I even choose to do this? Not going to lie, I know it's not the healthiest things, but I do have days where I'm envious of my staff.
Sure.
Or I have friends who just have a really good job.
Yeah. And that's stable. Like, they know what they're doing.
They shut their, and this is why I was asking you earlier, like why, like how do you balance the personal? Is the personal and part of that list? For me, I gotta have a certain amount of the personal that I can intermix with my work life, because if I just focus on work all day, I feel like my day, again, wasn't what it should have been. I got 3 kids, 11, 13, and 15. Yeah. And if I didn't get to sow into them at any level on that day, that's not a successful day. Yeah. So, but with my job, especially when we're in a ultra high busy season and you've got stresses constantly on it, like there's lots of days where I don't get to focus on my family at all. And that adds to the stress. And there's a lot of days I wake up and I'm like, why do I do this?
And does that have to do with pushing as hard as you do? Like I know that there's businessmen that have built like virtual empires on 40 hours a week, but it's extremely rare. Yeah. Like I don't see that often. And I don't think there's any magic number. I think that a lot of the things that we see as normal, like we see a 5-day work week of 8-hour days as normal. I'm not exactly sure how we evolve to these things. And I know there's discussions, particularly in the Scandinavian countries, where they're pulling back on that and they're working less. And a lot of the research shows that they're still producing the same or even more because their hours are just more efficient. Their brains are more ready to take on tasks and stuff. And so,
Yeah. I wouldn't say that's possible with physical labor type work.
well, I think that it is to a certain degree. Like, I do know that if I put in, other than when I was at peak physical condition in the peak ages of my life, like, you know, between like early 20s to early 30s, like other than that period, I know that if I work past about 10 hours in a day, that my next day suffers. I know this for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I may have produced amazingly that day, but it comes at a cost.
Yeah.
And so, and I often used to put in, you know, up to 19 hours of physical labor in a day. And I could handle it to some degree. And the next day was still efficient enough that I felt like it was worth it. But that tapered off. And certainly when I hit my 40s, there's no way. Like, if I was working, like, basically what I felt like is that if I was working past a 10-hour day, and I don't mean, like, if there's administrative duties that I could break it up with, that would change things. But if I was just physically on the tools for more than 10 hours, the next day, I felt like my efficiency probably dropped by, you know, anywhere 20+%, which is pretty significant.
Yeah.
And so, in other words, like, if my customer needed something done before nightfall and it had to happen, it's worth it. But if it was just me pushing myself, it's not worth it.
Interesting. Do you think you can condition through that?
I mean, only at a certain age. I think past a certain age, it's just not realistic. I think that we, you know, and I think that there are unique people that can do that. But I think overall, and I think I'm probably, you know, my capacity for hard physical labor is probably as good or better than most people I know. And so I don't think that I'm at like the bottom end of that equation. But I do really think, like, being honest with myself. And my wife helps me with that. Like, sometimes she's like, man, like, I come home after a long day and I'm destroyed. And she's like, how is this beneficial? Because tomorrow you're not going to produce the same way. And it's a fair conversation. Like, she's definitely right. And she's helped me to see that because if you are overextending yourself and there's not a net benefit, then, you know, it's questionable as to why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the conversation that we need to talk about, is like, how much of the effort that we put in day to day is because we tend towards the workaholic, and how much of it is healthy efficiency, production, momentum.
Mm-hmm. That to me is just completely circumstantial on why you're doing business in the first place. And this is the question I asked you this week, is like, why do we do this some days? Like, what's the purpose on waking up, dealing with these stresses, putting in the extra work, dealing with the liabilities and stress? Because I mean, like, the truth of the matter is, if you are a entrepreneur, the buck always stops with you.
Yeah.
You're responsible for the livelihoods of everyone who works in your company. Yeah. And you're responsible for every mistake that's made. The customers who are unhappy, it's your fault. Even if it's somebody in your team's fault, you put them in that position, therefore it's your fault. And so the reason that we work hard, the reason that we are motivated to make every decision we do, I think it really varies from person to person. Like, for me personally, I'm sure my reasons for what I do very, very different from yours. And it really stems to, why do we even choose to do business?
It does. I mean, if you're going way back as far as like core motivation, I think that fulfillment in life involves tackling hard things and accomplishing them. I think there's much about fulfillment that has to do with challenges. Yeah. It has to do with, you know, as some people say, walking through the fire. I think that fulfillment does typically, there's less fulfillment in doing things that are simple. I think where it gets murky is that if you're working in your gifting, in your natural talents, in the places where you shine, it often feels like less like work than if you're grinding it out in things that you don't necessarily do well. And so taking myself as an example, I think that I don't have an overly addictive personality. I don't like the idea of, I mean, I didn't drink coffee until we had our third kid. And then I had 1 cup of coffee a day. And so I was probably, what was I? That's 14 years ago now. So yeah, I was 38. And so I started at 1 cup of coffee a day, and then we had our 4th kid, and I've never stopped drinking coffee since then. That's my joke, at least. He's been a great kid. It's just that all of a sudden I just felt like, it's changed. And so I would say that I am slightly addicted to caffeine right now. I don't actually drink that much of it, but I drink coffee most days. But I can still go for a backcountry hike and not have it in the morning and still have a great day, which makes me feel good.
Yeah.
But I think that there is a workaholic nature to me. There's just no doubt about that. And so I often feel like I've done more when I'm working outside my gifting. And it's kind of like this. I trained in triathlon for a lot of years. And one of the most technical aspect of triathlon is the swimming. Swimming is a big deal. And if you don't have good form and you don't know what you're doing in the water, if you don't have good body balance in the water, it doesn't matter how hard you're working. And so I often had friends in the past that would they'd be like, oh man, you got to come and critique my stroke and see if I can, because I've always been enjoyed on the coaching side of that as well. I've always found fulfillment there. And so I'll watch, and once they, flounder their way to the edge of the pool, I'll be like, well, what's your objective? Why do you want to swim better? Well, I just, it's my way of keeping fit. I'm like, well, if it's just about keeping fit, do exactly what you're doing, because the floundering takes way more effort. Your heart rate's getting way higher, and you're getting a way better workout by being less efficient.
Yeah.
But if you want to be faster, and if you want to race, or if you want to just feel better in the water, then we can talk about efficiency. And we can talk about all of the things that will make your stroke better and your overall body position better, those things. But if you just want to feel like you've done a good workout, flounder.
That would stress me out. That whole concept of be inefficient just for the sake of work.
But I wonder how often we fall into that in our work life. I wonder how often we actually have been unbelievably inefficient, but we sweated extremely hard, and we go home thinking, man, I really did it today.
One of the things that causes me the most stress day to day, though, is if I can feel like we're being inefficient.
Well, true.
If my time isn't being effective, because there's working hard, and nothing stresses me out more than when I'm working hard, but I'm not being effective in what I'm doing. And there has to be an efficient component to what I do, or else because then we're not growing. If we're stuck in that just working for the sake of working, to me, you're not progressing to bigger and better things, in my opinion.
I'm not 100% sure.
No?
I feel like there's something innate about just the action of working that is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's necessary to growing as a person. And I think that there's certain inefficiencies. I think that to become efficient at anything, you need to have a period of inefficiency.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you negate the value of that period of time just because it's not as efficient as it should be, if you feel well, this is a failure because I'm not efficient, then you're not going to take on challenges that are outside of your experience, in a sense.
Well, and you have to embrace those learning curves, which is something honestly, just saying that, I really struggle to take time and learn new things.
Sure.
Because it's actually something that to me, the inefficiency drives me nuts.
And and I think we all vary in this, and I think it's an important internal discussion, because I know my brother is someone who goes very deep on things. What he becomes good at, he becomes very good at. Mm-hmm. He has no issue with attacking something and literally driving it into the ground year after year until he becomes the best at what he does in his realm. He's a very taproot type person. And I'm the opposite. I just love chasing shiny things. I'm curious about life in general. And so for me, the idea of just doing one thing and becoming extremely good at it is super annoying, because there's so many other things that I want to understand, which is why triathlon was great for me, because I was doing 3 disciplines rather than 1. And so I think that we all vary in how willing we are to learn new things. And some people don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know people in my life that decided what they wanted to do as a career when they were 14, like determined, like this is who I'm going to be, became the best basically that you can be, reached the top of their game relatively early in life, and then just rode that train. And I respect that. And I think it's super, and they're extremely efficient at what they do because they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I think then there's other people like me who just like, I've conquered this and immediately I get restless. I'm like, I want to take on a new challenge. I want to figure something out new. And whereas like from a productivity, efficiency standpoint, it would be better if I just settle in and work what I now know.
Yeah.
You know, the whole Malcolm Gladwell, like becoming an expert in, and I know he wasn't the one who invented this, but he's the one that made it popular, was like, you spend 10,000 hours doing something, you're going to become an expert. Typically, if you have a standard skill set and you attack something and you spend 10,000 hours, that's kind of like, at this point, you can call yourself an expert. And for me, if I've done that in something, then I want to, you know, leave that thing essentially and try something different.
Interesting.
And become inefficient again essentially and struggle through that process.
I can't relate.
And I think
that's really interesting.
And I think that's because as human nature, we just have a different inclination this way.
Yeah.
And so for me, I love efficiency, but what I love more than efficiency is problem solving. I love coming in. And so I think this has to do with like the time we spend, the energy we put in, and is it worth it? Like for me, it's a huge day if I go into work and I'm on a job site and there's an issue and I'm talking with the general contractor and there's something that we're trying to like puzzle out, and then coming out with what I feel like is the best possible solution, that is hugely gratifying to me. And so my production might not be extremely amazing that day, but I consider that a massive win.
Yeah. Would you say that's one of the main contributing factors to why you do run your company the way you do?
Yeah.
At a smaller scale?
Totally.
The problem solving stays with you?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Because I'm essentially not a systems guy. I'm a guy who likes to have a good system, but I love to shake it up with just figuring something else out.
Yeah. I'm a systems guy.
Yes, you are.
And I'm like, if I can put the right people in place and create systems so I never have to solve those problems, it just becomes efficient.
Yes.
And there's a place for it, then, you know, a solution to everything per se.
Yeah.
And that makes me happy.
And preferably, I think for you, a solution before the problem comes up.
Yeah,
like
ideally.
It's built into the system.
Yeah. If your systems are so smooth that you can just... Well, and part of that is there's a little bit of a problem-solving component, especially because every home is unique, every customer is unique, everybody has different wants. So you're like, the main thing we do with every project we walk towards is that problem-solving component.
Yes.
But I like to have all the systems in place so that we already know going in, like, this is what you're looking for, these are your options, and as things show up along the way, we already have the answers in place.
Yes.
Or I have the personnel or the subcontractor or whoever I need in order to problem solve that and handle it as efficiently and simply as possible.
This is interesting because we have a buddy who we've encouraged to specialize over the years, and he's refused to. And we want him to specialize because we know that if he really digs into something, he'll become the best there is. But he refuses to, and I think it's because he loves to problem solve.
I would agree with that.
I think he's just an absolutely outstanding problem solver. And I think that's what gives him fulfillment. Because if you think about it, why else would he be doing what he's doing?
Yeah. He needs variety too.
Yeah, but
he can do everything extremely well.
But I think the variety is part of the reason why that's attractive to some of us is because of the problem solving part of it.
Yeah. So would you say that, is it fair to say that if problem solving is one of your must-dos during the day, it's hard to scale a business?
Unbelievably hard.
If you need that problem solving component.
Unless I'm in a business where it's big enough, like I think there's a huge gap in there. unless I was in a business that was big enough that could be my sole role.
Interesting.
Right? And so going from where I'm at, like I scaled up to 15 employees. And when I hit 15 employees, I hated it. It was a horrible place for me to be because we had to have systems and we had to just work those systems. And I was always like the spoke, like just shoving the stick in the spokes. Like I was the problem. And I recognized that. I'm like, this is not good for me. Yeah. And so I went back down to a smaller operation. I can still tackle large jobs because I learned how to use sub trades and stuff. So I could still get a decent amount of volume done, but I wasn't just working a system.
Yeah.
But if I leapt over, and I've often thought about this, like if I became an employee somewhere, I would need to have a role that would be largely about problem solving. Mm-hmm. That to me would be brilliant.
But isn't there a component to developing systems and operating systems that you're problem solving 100% through those as well?
So developing the systems I have no issue with. Maintaining and operating the systems I'm just absolutely horrible at.
Yeah.
In fact, I even hate changing the filters on my water system. Like I know how often it should be done. Like, you know, and we have a well at our place because we're on an acreage. And so I know what I need to do. I just hate it's like pulling a tooth for me.
Is it easy and quick?
It's not hard. No, it's not hard. A lot of the stuff that I actually really avoid doing, it's not that it's hard. It's just that it's part of a system and that bothers me. And I feel, and it makes me feel like a cog in a wheel. Mm-hmm. And I don't like that feeling.
So is that one of the main reasons that motivated you to do business in the first place, is the fact that it gave you an outlet to be problem solving constantly?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I was super energized when I first started my company. Very energized because everything was a problem.
Yeah,
like I knew nothing, and so for me that was not intimidating. That was absolutely, it was like just jumping into the deep end, exactly where I wanted to be, and like figuring out and trying to, in a way, kind of like trying to create life out of lifeless things.
Yeah, like
trying to like build something that was going to operate and be fine-tuned. But then once I reached that place where it's like, okay, now we're a viable company that's got a system, I was like, all of a sudden my interest really waned.
Yeah. So would you say a role like for you, like a business development manager, somebody who's just constantly looking to strategize, diversify, grow, find change, like is
totally
that's the kind of role that you could really, in a big corporation?
Totally. Yeah. It'd have to be big enough where that's a role.
Yeah.
When I ran the cabinet company, I probably spent 4 years in that place of uncomfort for me, of being like just trying to work a system. And it wasn't fun for me. Probably the worst years of my life.
Well, one of the things we found for you though, as a team, is we find that you're really good at strategic planning. Strategic planning is more or less problem solving.
It is
trying to achieve a certain goal, a certain plateau, or whatever you want to call it.
Totally. And it is about efficiency. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's totally about efficiency, but it's not about working the system. It's about creating it. Yeah. And sometimes strategic planning in its early stage is actually about, it's almost like it's an editing out process. It's like, what are the things that we should not think about? Because I think when you're early on in a strategic plan, everything seems like a priority, and you know, if everything shines, then nothing shines. And so you have to eliminate a ton of stuff before you can actually be strategic. I love that process.
It's funny because for me, like, this is something I'm really focusing on in our company right now, is, you know, creating SOPs and creating a strategic plan. And I'm super excited to do it.
Yeah.
But I'm more excited to have it in place and run it than I am about creating these things.
Oh, interesting.
Because like, I'm excited for it because I can see the efficiency and the opportunity for growth that's at the end of getting it done.
Yes.
But I'm really hating getting it done because, again, this is a really stressful time for me. And part of it's also the stress comes from not having these KPIs and everything in place.
Right.
And I'm super pumped to get all this stuff put in place, but really struggling to get through the day-to-day of actually doing the problem solving, creating the detailed job descriptions and standard operating procedures and everything that's needed to create a really successful strategic plan.
Right. And I think that this is like a big part of assessing our roles as business people is to understand who we are and to understand where we're working hard just because we feel good about working hard versus working hard and actually accomplishing something that's meaningful.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I go back to my example of floundering in the water, and it's like when you are, well, it's actually outstanding to watch a really, really talented swimmer, like someone that's put in the time and also has natural aptitude versus someone who doesn't have aptitude and has not put in the time, and one that's well coached and well critiqued, and someone who's uncoached and uncritiqued. Mm-hmm. And if you watch them swimming beside each other, it's phenomenal how much further and with less energy the good swimmer will go versus the poor. Like it's absolutely not even the same exercise. It's not the same exercise. There's just no, and one guy looks like they're not working and they're absolutely flying because they've done actually a ton of work to develop those efficiencies.
Yeah.
And I think that in small business, and I guess this is something that while we're in the heat of our season and we're absolutely like every day, I know both you and I right now, at the end of each day, we're tired. And at the beginning of most days, we're also tired. Like, I mean, we're trying to get our sleep in properly and we're trying to do the things that matter to bring us life and health. But we are seasonal. And at this point in the season, we're feeling it. Like there's just no doubt. And I think that it's important for both of us to take a look at what we're doing day to day and make sure that, like, we're going to be tired regardless right now. Like that's not the point. Mm-hmm. So working hard, and I'm not against working hard. I've never been. I think working hard is an important thing. I don't like the 4-hour work week concept. No, to me, that's unattractive. I think that all that means is the people around you have to work hard. It's like my dad told me they were doing an introduction. Like sometimes there was just a bunch of people that were at a church gathering and they didn't all know each other. So they were going around the circle and just saying a tiny bit about themselves and their name, etc. And this was in a northern mining town in Flin Flon, where I was born in Manitoba. And the one guy says, "My name is so-and-so and I do as little as possible." And then his wife was next, and she goes, "And I'm his wife, and therefore I do an awful lot." and my dad quoted that little story many times when I was growing up to different people, and everyone always chuckled because that's the truth. Like if you're not doing much, then there's people doing a lot around you.
Somebody has to pick up the weight around you.
Yeah, and I feel like it's, and let me push back a little further. I think it's a little selfish.
I totally agree.
I think it's a little selfish to say that I'm a 4-hour work week guy. Like, come on, like who's then who's cleaning your diapers? Like someone is.
No, we all got to contribute to society at a higher level.
We do, and it's not just about, like, our life is not just about making our lives as comfortable as possible. And so I have issues around people saying, like, if we're not efficient, I'm not going to do it. Come on, there are times when we just need to do something because it needs to be done.
Yeah,
and I think that there's tremendous value in that. And so there's days when, there's many days in my life where an 18-year-old could probably do a better job of what I'm doing than what I'm doing. When it's just straight about production and volume, I'm not the best at that right now most days, unless I'm doing something that requires volume that also requires my particular expertise, in which case I can be extremely efficient for a few days until I'm just exhausted physically. Yeah. And so, but those days, there's times at which I chastise myself and say, well, I should be above this. But then there's other times when I look at it and I say, you know what, this is what I found. There's a verse in scripture that says, whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might. Mm-hmm. Like, do it the best that you can. Work as if you're working for royalty, basically.
Yeah.
And I think that the concept of not judging what you're doing as being meaningless, but doing it, if you've decided to do this task, then to do it as if it means something is important. But I also think it's important then to look at that task at the end of the day and say, all right, we did that. We did it to the best of our ability. Is that a task I should have been doing? Mm-hmm. I think that's also a fair question. And so while I don't propose that the 4-hour work week is something that we should aspire to, I do think that sometimes if we're spending the bulk of our week doing stuff that we actually shouldn't do in the long term, maybe cutting back some of our time and editing what we do more is probably a smart thing. And I think both you and I struggle with that. I think we both struggle with editing what we're doing. I think that if we have outside business coaches come in and watch what we do day to day, I think they would chastise both of us.
Yeah. Well, I've even had a little bit of that with our Forge group of owners here.
Right.
Because we've been pretty tight knit between us and helping each other out, but also criticizing each other and being like, hey, like...
Or critiquing.
Yeah.
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 Criticizing seems negative, but we're
in a loving way.
Yeah.
Some positive criticism.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's fair.
And we all welcome it because we all want to grow and we all want to get better. And it's even all the things I'm working on right now that I was just talking about with SOPs and strategic planning and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's all from the outside coming in and being like, the reason you're stressed is because you're not doing these things.
Right.
And you need to shift your focus. And I know you don't like problem solving through this.
Yes.
But this is what it would look like, and this is the abilities you'll have running your company if you get these things in place. And it's just like, okay, had no idea on those things. So very grateful to have people around us to hold each other accountable. And I think you and I have done this to each other quite a bit.
We have.
In our histories.
We have.
If nothing else, through just motivating each other and supporting each other, but also with like, hey, like maybe rethink your approach on some things.
Yes.
I think it's such a crucial part of life in general. Like I can't even just say it to just business, but you need people in your life who are holding you to a higher standard and speaking into you and making sure that when you are, and no matter how much we learn and grow, we're always going to hit those areas, like you were saying, where we're operating in places we just shouldn't be.
Right. Or at least shouldn't be for the long term.
Yeah. And we keep getting caught up in the same nets. And sometimes we don't even recognize that we're getting caught in the same traps until somebody like each other or on a podcast or one of our other close business colleagues or somebody in a peer group or somebody is just beside you and it's just like, hey, do you not recognize this trap that you keep falling into? Yeah. It's just like, no. Well, it's there. And you got to focus on that and deal with that so that you can get out of it and get into the next level.
And I think often it's our spouse that will see this clearer than most. Because it's like when it comes to repeated mistakes, I think that our spouse is usually a pretty good voice. Not always, but I think depending on the person. But I know that my wife has pointed out, like, you're starting to fall into this again. And I think for me, I tend to fall into workaholism. I'm a bit of a people pleaser. When something needs to be done and I'm the guy to do it, I like to put my shoulder into it and just get it done.
Yeah, that always feels good.
It does feel good. But it sometimes comes at a cost that's a bit high. And I think that that's one of the balances that I've tried to navigate through my life. I think I've got that's something that I will always have to work on. Like there's certain things in our lives I think that we've always got to kind of try to keep in check. And for me, if I leave myself untethered, I'll just work until I drop. And so, it's just how it's always been.
And I mean, for that kind of circumstance, a spouse will always call you out on that.
Yeah.
Because it's coming at a cost to your family at that point.
Totally.
Too, right?
It's coming at a cost to all the relationships that mean the most.
Yeah.
And I think that I've seen this and I've kept myself away from the abyss with this, partially because I have incredibly loyal and wonderful people around me. So I haven't paid an ultimate price for it, but I've seen many people who will take on tasks that are all encompassing for extremely long periods of time, and all of a sudden all the people they love and are working for disappear. And I think that's a price that's just way too high, because ultimately whatever the task is starts to outweigh what you're actually doing the task for. And I think that's a problem.
So question for you.
Yeah.
What's the number one critique in your work life and marriage that your wife has called you out for?
Oh, definitely workaholism.
Really?
Definitely.
Nice.
Yeah, without a doubt. Just working too long, too hard.
Yeah. Guess what my wife says for me?
I'm not sure.
Ego.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
She calls me out if the world starts revolving around me, which in all honesty it's hard for anybody who's running a business because
Yeah.
when you're in the top seat in a company,
Yeah.
it's very easy for you to feel like the world revolves around you. And my wife has constantly been like, get down from your high horse.
Well, and workaholism and ego are very closely attached.
They can be.
Because and this is one of the things that's actually helped me a ton. And it's one of those things that I don't think is necessarily would help everyone. But one of the things that I do every once in a while when I get caught in this trap of thinking that I have to be the one to accomplish this task or else the world is going to fall down.
Yeah.
That one of the big things that's helped me on that is I just imagine the world with me dead and gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not maybe like for some people that'd be like, well, that's morbid. But for me, it's been extremely helpful because I'm like, at some point I won't have the capacity to do what I'm doing. And someone else is just going to have to learn this task and do it. And that's just as simple as it is. Like I'm not that indispensable.
Mm-hmm.
The world was just fine without me and it will be just fine without me again.
Yeah. And I mean, our companies, everything, like our customers, everybody will move on.
Absolutely.
Figure out something once we're gone. Like,
absolutely.
It's just going to happen. We're all going to die one day.
Yeah.
And guess what? The world will keep moving.
Yeah. And or change what we do. And it's okay.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes if we feel like, and I think workaholism often comes out of that motivation to think that I'm indispensable. So there is an ego attached to that. And I think that that's a piece of my mindset that I've tried to let go of. And again, it's probably a challenge that I will always have. And it's okay.
Yeah.
But I think that if we don't see these challenges as being like, there's certain issues, certain personality traits, certain characteristics that we have that if we don't address them or at least recognize that they're there, it's going to be something that's going to hurt a lot of people around us.
And the biggest part to that is being open to criticism and constructive criticism from your spouse.
Yeah.
And also your work peers, people around you. And again, if you're not in a peer group or involved in some sort of community where you're having people in your life who are helping you recognize these things, you're just going to keep falling back into those same traps.
Yeah.
And you don't even recognize it.
Yeah.
And a lot of your stresses probably come from those same things. I recognize that very much 10 years into doing this for me. And I am being shown daily. It's just like, dude, you keep falling into the same trap. Maybe deal with that and your life will get easier.
Yeah.
So, but I won't recognize. It's not in my ability to recognize that unless I have people around me with different skills and different motivations to actually help point that out. And then if you got really good people in your life, they'll help you with the process to get out of that or solve that.
Or at least give you a step in the right direction.
Give you a compass.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like with Forge Contractor Alliance, one of the things that we want to do is we want to encourage people to get into those positions. Yeah. Where you're in a group of peers where you're talking, and I mean we're gonna be starting up peer groups here before too long, given an opportunity. And in the comments, if you'd like to be part of that, feel free to just say, hey, like when that starts up, let me know, because we want to, you can reach out to us that way, but we want to establish some solid peer groups. They're going to be, largely around the trades, but I don't think exclusively. I think if there's people that feel like they relate to the tradesman lifestyle, they could also, be included in that. But I know for us, as the four of us who are running Forge together, we have been peer group for each other and super beneficial. Yeah. And I think that we're just actually tapping the tip of the potential of like just kind of the cross-pollination that we have even just between the four of us. Yeah. And totally. So, yeah, super meaningful, really, really neat chat. And I think that this is something that we're going to have to talk about more. There's a lot of aspects that we've touched on today, other than just, what we're sweating about and for that are meaningful discussions. And I think, for me, even, this discussion is something that gives me more food for thought. And making sure that if I'm putting in a long day, I'm putting it in for the right reasons.
Totally.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for coming along for the ride, and we appreciate you. Take care.